Good evening and welcome to a new edition of Our Town. I'm Pat Martin, and tonight I'm without the man who usually introduces me, Mark DiGiacomo. Mark unfortunately had a work commitment that came up unexpectedly, but he'll be joining us in the future as we continue to move forward to highlight the candidates that'll be looking for your votes in the upcoming May 11th election, as well as some of the articles and issues that'll be presented at the town meeting that'll be coming before you on Monday, April 26th. I keep wanting to stress that this is a new schedule for the spring town meeting. It was voted on at the last town meeting, but I myself neglected to notice, so I'm thinking a lot of people too might be showing up on a Saturday when it's Monday. Monday the 26th may go on to Tuesday if they don't get all their business done. But tonight we're going to move forward with the candidates that are looking for your votes in an uncontested race on the Cohasset School Committee. I say uncontested because we have two slots that are open. Jeanne Astino, who is the current chairman of the school committee, is seeking re-election. And then we have Linda Snowdale is stepping down, is not seeking re-election. So we have Mary McGoldrick seeking that spot. But we know in Cohasset that anything can happen. It doesn't seem like it was too long ago, although I might be aging myself, when we did have a write-in candidate. So I think it's always good to pay attention, and we're happy tonight to bring you Mary McGoldrick. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you very much.
All right, so Mary McGoldrick, it's hard to believe that anybody in town would know who you are, but let's just start by talking a little bit about yourself.
Okay.
Tell us about Mary.
We've been here for 21 years. I have 3 children. One is a senior in college, one is a sophomore in college, and my youngest, Emmy, is a sophomore at the high school. All 3 kids have been through the schools. I came to town and started working with the PSO, moved on to the community center, and then the Social Service League, and then most recently, 7 years ago, we rejuvenated the Cohasset Education Foundation. And I was part of that original core group, and that, if you remember, was after the override had failed, and there was a lot of angst and energy behind it, and we were able to get that up and off the ground again, and it sat dormant for a little while, and I think mostly just because the school buildings were being rebuilt, and we had a lot of projects going on at the time. So I have been very busy at that for the last 7 years. And my term is up. I can't work for them anymore. And a spot was open, and it seemed like a logical next step for me.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the CEF, though, because I think, again, a lot of folks don't know exactly what it does. It raises money privately.
Yes.
You seek grants?
We seek grants from administrators and teachers. We have funded over, I want to say, about $465,000 in grants that have gone to all 3 schools. We also do some funding for CSCR because they have
that's the Coastal Student Research Center.
Yes. They have a really nice partnership with the high school. A lot of our students are there in the summertime. They're able to use some of that equipment also during the year. So that's also been successful. We've done really big capital projects like the Foreign Language Lab at the middle high school. We have been able to start to branch out a little bit and do things like Circus School at the Deer Hill this year, some more arts programs, great things. One of the great grants we just awarded was building your own personal website that they're doing over at the middle school. So we've really been able to diversify, which is what an education foundation wants to do. Be able to offer lots of different kind of grants to inspire teachers and inspire students and give them an opportunity that they are not going to have in a regular budget.
Now, do you fund the same line items or grants or projects every year, or is it something different? How does your funding cycle work?
We take grant applications twice a year, and kind of the November, December cycle, and then in the spring cycle. We have a grant cycle that is going to be due on Friday, actually, that we'll award a month later. A lot of times teachers or administrators will come to us first and kind of float an idea and what's the viability. We do make sure that those grants go to a principal and the superintendent just to make sure it's not something that would be funded in the regular budget, that they're not aware of. And then it comes to us, and we have a grant review committee of about it's a floating number, say 6 to 8 people.
And that's on the CEF? Or?
That's within the CEF board. That grant committee reviews those grants and then brings recommendations back to the board for funding. Our mission is to work in partnership with the teachers and the administrators to foster excellence in education. And it's not our mission to fund something in perpetuity, so to have a grant come back year after year. A great example of a grant that we funded was the virtual high school here at the high school, and I want to say that was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It was very successful, and they were able to put it in the budget the year afterwards. So that's an ideal situation for us.
Seeding programs.
A seeding program to fund some pilot programs. And not everything is, hugely successful. But I think we've been really fortunate and haven't had too many missteps along the way.
So you do or you do not fund positions or staff?
We do not fund positions or staff. We made that decision. There's only one foundation that I know of in Massachusetts, and that's Winchester, that does go out and fund teachers, and it's a separate fund from their regular pool for grant monies. There may be others, but I'm not aware of them. We made that decision not to do that. We felt like when we were reorganizing ourselves, that was a pretty slippery slope to get into. And it's, if you have a certain number of students in the school, it's the town's responsibility to fund positions and to fund teachers for those.
Okay.
So
how much will you invest, how much did you invest in last year's operating budget for the school committee?
Last year, and I should know this number.
Well, you can give us a ballpark.
I want to say it was probably $80,000. Over the 7 years, we've given roughly $1,000. Very big chunks the years we did the foreign language labs. Because those tickets, I think they totaled together $120,000, those 2 labs.
That was the equipment for
That was all the equipment for the 2 labs. And so, but generally speaking about that, our funds are split. We also have an endowment fund. So generally speaking, unless somebody specifies distinctly, their contributions are split between the 2 funds.
When you say endowment, now that's looking to endow the CEF with ongoing funds. You're not looking to endow positions.
We're not looking to endow positions.
Okay.
That is to maintain the health of both foundation and the schools. We've been very fortunate. We've been able to raise a significant amount of money every year since the beginning. That may not continue. We're now in a position where the endowment is in a very healthy state. It's over $500,000 and is throwing off income of its own. And we've made that promise to our donors and our investors that it's principal preserved. We do use the funds at the end of every year. We decide how much of the income earned we're going to throw back into the grant pool.
Okay. Since you're such a great organization, I'm going to allow you to give a plug. You've got a big fundraiser
We have a
coming
big
up.
event coming up on
Saturday,
May 4th, which is Kentucky Derby Day.
I know it well.
And it is the Derby Day Gala at the Cohasset Golf Club.
Great.
And I will say I was talking with Carolyn Connolly today, or a few days ago, the principal of the high school, and I've been speaking to some teachers, and there are some great grant proposals that are out there that we would like to be able to fund, and obviously from the other schools as well. I'm the grant liaison for the high school.
Okay.
So I'm more in touch with those teachers at this point. But there's some great grant applications out there.
So are you saying if more people come out to the Derby Gala and you have a great success, then you'll be able to fund more of these grants?
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, that's how it works. So we are in a position now of, in our fall cycle, we can't say yes to everything that comes before us. So we would obviously like to be able to say yes to as much as we can.
Great, great.
So.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the school committee. So
Yes.
you saw the school committee as a natural leap, you said, to go from the work you've done from kind of, you sound like me, you started with your volunteer work as your children grew and kind of followed them up. And now from the CFO to the school committee seems like a good jump.
Yes, I'm a little intimidated as well. I mean, I'll be honest, because I realize there's an awful lot that I have to learn about the process. But I feel like I have a pretty good sense of what goes on inside the buildings from the teacher and the student and the principal perspective, having worked in that arena for the last 7 years. And I would like definitely to see what I could do to help kind of on the other side of things.
Do you think it'll be an adjustment to go from what I imagine you're a very popular person when we all are when we're coming in funding, when we have
Everyone's
money
happy to see me.
But to get onto the other spot where you have to look at issues like, salary increases out of a pool of money that might not be bottomless, making determinations of where priorities will go, getting into disciplinary actions if there's problems with on any levels there.
No, I'm sure it's going to be a little more fraught than it is right now. I mean, the foundation is not a political organization. Mm-hmm. So, as you said, it's been great. We've been able to raise money, tell, the community who has been so generous what we do, take it in and give out grants, and everyone's pretty happy at the end of the day. So I don't anticipate it's all going to be like that going forward.
Now, what do you see as the challenges that are before the school committee as a whole in the next 3 years?
Well, I know coming up, they are going to be reviewing the teacher evaluation process. So that's kind of one of the next steps.
It hasn't been done before? This is a new evaluation process?
As I understand it, there is a new evaluation process which was put into place, I don't know, I want to say last year. But also that's something that was not, that's still to kind of be negotiated with the teachers. So that whole rubric and how they're doing the evaluations, that's very interesting to me. With all the emphasis on testing and accountability, it doesn't take into consideration a lot of what makes a great teacher at the end of the day. So I'm sure I will find that process really interesting. I think the class size is going to be interesting coming forward with the new developments that we have going on here in town and how we adjust to that.
Well, you've already had, in this budget, you've added an anticipated position at the Osgood. Are you
Correct.
seeing
There's a first grade teacher that's being added there.
So do you think most of the growth is coming in at the younger age, or again, you just don't know?
I don't know. And there's a very big class in 7th grade. I think there's a very big class in the 3rd grade. And then it just remains to be seen if those students stay in the public school system or if some of them go out. If there's a tradition of a private school that their family maintains. So, I think those numbers are pretty fluid. And a lot of times, I don't know that they know until August what they're going to get. At the school committee last week, I think the superintendent was talking about how Bobblecount had 14 new students in August enroll.
Amazing.
So I don't know how you prepare for that. So those are going to be really interesting challenges.
I think that's always the case with the budget too, because it's a moving target. So many things when you set it in motion to create the budget, like this budget, I'm sure everybody knows that the budget that's going before the town meeting on the 26th is really FY14.
Right.
So it doesn't go into place till July 1st.
Right.
Of 2013 is rolling in, but the work started way back before Christmas, if I recall. So you're taking information and data from that point and trying to extrapolate it and look into the future with it to set something solid for almost 9 months down the road up to a year.
Right. Well, I'm sure the work starts on July 2nd, actually. As soon as that new fiscal year starts, I'm sure it begins right then. But that whole process is going to be, I'm sure it will be a big learning curve for me.
So what do you see in the budget? I mean, we've got positions. We've got 2 positions coming in. We've got a school teacher. We've got a high school person that's going to come in. I'm confused about this myself too, because I'm not sure. Again, as I said before, I tend to look at the budget process the way we did it way back when. But now things have changed so much. You're pulling maintenance out.
Yes, maintenance is out and healthcare is out.
Healthcare is out. You've got the IT department, which is its own department.
Yes, which is now shared with the town. The CTO person, Rob Bonnell, I mean, that's a new position that was created last year.
Now, is he in this budget or he's not?
I don't actually know the
Okay.
answer to that
Yeah.
question because the cost is shared by the town and the schools. I might be a 60-40 split, but I am not sure.
Yeah, because I see it mentioned in here, they just say the IT department, so, where it falls under. But there's a position coming in under there. To go with what I read on the website is really an initiative to continue addressing some of the technology issues that...
Right, which are huge. And that I think is probably one of the biggest issues that the district
Well, tell us
still
about
gonna
that. If
face.
folks are going to be looking at, where the increases came in the budget, not that it's as you said, I think the overall increase is under 3%.
Yeah, it's under 3% from last year. And they've been, it still means they've been doing more with less, essentially. But I just know from our experience with the Education Foundation in the last 7 years, one of the things that the school needed desperately, all the schools, were technology upgrades. And not just for the students, but for the teachers who are, really in a tough position when they can't access the information they need.
Right.
So that is, as I understand it, there's Rob Bonnell has put in a few new labs. The Education Foundation has certainly put in new labs, but there's new mandates federally in terms of how much technology. I believe it's a 1-to-1 ratio that they want to see students with technology within the next year or so, and that's a huge challenge. So and it changes so rapidly that once you have it in, well, I mean, as y'all know, 1 or 2 years later, there's something else to replace it. So how do you manage it? Do you lease it? Do you buy it? Is your infrastructure up to date to handle it?
Does it talk to everybody else's infrastructures? All these type of things.
There were a lot of conversations too, I know, about letting students come in and use their own devices, but then there's kind of some privacy issues about that, and it just goes on and on. It's a big issue.
That is a big issue. You talked about something that, with, I don't know if you used the word mandates, but you talked about things coming and going. And I remember on my days of the school committee, you had a lot of mandates or expectations from the state. You need to do this. Back in my dinosaur ages, we were bringing in MCAS, and that added additional cost. Do you still see that coming up from the state, that more and more things that they want schools to do?
As I understand, they're talking about a new assessment that will be coming forward that will replace MCAS.
Oh, really?
Yes.
There's a perfect example of what you just said.
Yes.
Okay.
And it is called the Park Assessment. So I don't know too much more about it than that. We have the Common Core standards. That's a federal I don't know if mandate's the right word, that need to be rolled out. As I understand it, Massachusetts is in a great place because our standards were very high, if not higher, in some cases than the Common Core standards. And I have been able to hear Louise Demas speak, who's the curriculum coordinator, and I think our district is in pretty good shape as far as that goes and moving toward the Common Core. But I know there's a lot they're doing in terms of revamping the writing program at the Osgood and the Deer Hill. They've changed the math program. So there's constant flux, but there's a big emphasis, as I understand it, on ensuring some continuity on the way things are taught and the language that's used, and making sure that the teacher in second grade is using the same terms as the teacher next door to her, and really providing some continuity for the students going forward. So.
Wow, sounds like some of the same thing. Just as you get used to
I
something,
think it's
something
yes.
comes in.
Exactly.
But from what I hear, I mean, I think I'm remembering last year. I don't know if it was U.S. News or was it Boston Magazine.
The ranking.
Cohasset's still considered to be one of the better school districts in the Commonwealth.
Cohasset still does very, very well, and. I mean, I think we're very privileged to be in this community. I think it's a very high achieving community overall. But we have the good fortune. A lot of those rankings, every publication's rankings differs a little bit in what they're measuring exactly. But a lot of those are based on AP scores and the number of students that take AP courses and tests, and then how they do. And we've been very successful there. But I would, and I would hope that, part of what the Education Foundation has been able to do along the way to maybe bring some opportunities that weren't there before can help. You hope that students and parents and people coming to town see that information and they want to come here and be a part of that community. Because it's a great educational community. It really is.
What do you say to folks, and I've heard this since my days to, it's still perpetuated, that Cohasset really does well with the high achievers, the motivated kids, doesn't do so well with the kids who struggle, the less than college prep types. How do you respond to that? What do you think?
I'm not quite sure what to say, except that it's obviously every student in the classrooms need to be addressed. And part of the responsibility of the school committee is to listen to all of those parents and groups of individuals. And I've heard the same argument too, that the kids and perhaps in the top half of the class or top third get attention, and the bottom third, and then it's your
Kids in the middle.
happy kid in the middle that maybe gets pushed by the wayside. So I also think you can hear a lot of different parts of that argument. I think a lot of that comes down to class size and who's in the classroom, and what kind of arrangements are being made for that student that might need extra help, and to motivate those kids. How do you do that? Every kid in the classroom. I think there's a way to do it. So
that's true. So you're moving into this political position. Okay. So, but my sense seems like the school committee of current, and I can't say I've been a school committee junkie watching the meetings, but it seems like it's a group of people that seem to be like-minded.
It seems to be a great group. I know everybody on the board. I don't know Linda Snowdale as well, but I've obviously been attending the meetings, and I think everyone is pretty much on the same page, which is great. There's differences of opinion, which is good. You need a healthy conversation about some issues, because there's more than one way to do it. But it really seems very clear to me that everybody has the same objective in mind, and that's the students. So.
And how do you feel about the relationship with the school and the town? Again, I don't have an opinion, but I remember there were years where the school was at odds with the town, and you were either for the schools or you're against the schools. It seemed like a lot more rancor, although it does seem like there's a lot of rancor in town politics these days, with a lot of anonymous blogging and personal attacks, and sometimes it's hard to decide which side is right, what's really going on. Do you feel the schools and the towns are pretty much in sync with their relationship?
It's my sense that relationship has certainly gotten better. I think the school committee has done a great job. I think the superintendent and also the one prior, just in presenting budgets that are transparent and out there and very detailed. And the schools have done what they've been asked to do in terms of putting their budgets together. There hasn't been an override in 7 years, and we're still doing a great job educating the kids. So, and there's always room for improvement, obviously, but I think that seems to be in a pretty good place from what I can tell, and I'm sure I'll get an email about it.
So if a lot of times we go on brand new, with something that we'd really like to do. We're not always, as you said, you've got a learning curve, so we're not always sure how it's going to get accomplished, or whether somebody tried it before and it just couldn't be done. But, if there was a magic wand, which issues would you like to just kind of touch upon that you'd like to either improve or make go away? Anything?
I think technology is just kind of first and foremost. I would also just personally love to see some things like more after-school opportunities available for students. There's a lot of kids out there who aren't, maybe they don't want to be the athlete and they don't want to play 3 sports, and to see something else offered for those kids on a more routine basis. When we lost the middle school sports, and that was a long time ago, we lost a lot of opportunities, I think, for socialization and but there are certainly other activities. I know the high school is working to get some other clubs going and things like that, an opportunity for kids. That's the one area where Cohasset, I think it does fall a little short, and it's largely just because we're a small town. And you need somebody to kind of step forward who's really passionate about whether it's chess or horse riding or the sailing program, which was started, and be able to offer that.
But those positions, those club models, they wouldn't fit under like a CEF grant, because again, or do they? Because usually
we have a policy where we do offer a stipend for a new activity or something like that, but then we would like to see it be self-sustaining. So we would absolutely offer a stipend for teacher time, for creating the program, for a new program or an after-school activity, and then if it takes off and you have enough of an audience that's going to buy into it, to perhaps charge a small fee, make it self-sustaining, and see it go forward.
There.
So.
And I remember too, I mean, before middle school sports, we were fortunate. We used to have, it seems like 100 years ago, I don't think my kids even had it, was the late bus. We used to have two buses, which would allow people to stay after school, participate in events, and then still get home, which is always a problem for kids who aren't driving.
Right.
So. Always that wish list
that
of things that you have to do. So, and then, so you had you said you weren't part of it, but you've got a new teacher contract in place, so that won't be something that you'll have to worry about.
That's in place for 3 years.
Just a quick question, whether you know, because I know this was a big discussion way back, well, it still seems like it is. You talked about the teacher's evaluation. Will that be tied at all? Do you know, to anything like merit pay, where they used to say?
I have no idea. I have no idea. So that's one of the things I'm going to go learn about.
Yeah, that seemed like that would be, if that were the case, I would imagine we would hear more about it.
Right, and as I understand, the teacher contract was settled, and then they just need to make some, obviously have some conversations about how the evaluations are going to go forward. So I would be very surprised if there was any more dollars attached to any of that.
All right, so any other, you'll be allowed, or not allowed, I should say, you'll be encouraged to go and choose different subcommittees. You don't get to just go to one meeting every 2 weeks.
No.
What a commitment, I got to say. Thank you so much for, stepping forward, because your free time is probably all going to be gone now. But any subcommittees that you're interested in that you'll be?
I'm actually very interested in the legislative subcommittee. One of the things from working on the CEF for as long as I have is just becoming a little more educated, informed, and hopefully influencing where the money comes from in terms of the state. Because I think that's actually the big conversation.
You think they'll loosen up some money to give to Cohasset, do you?
I don't know.
Well, we could always hope, right?
But very interested in that, and the budget cycle, just how that is going to work. So
you'll be finding out.
Yes, I will.
Well,
hopefully.
Well, thank you, Mary. Our time goes by quick. It always does when you get to talking, and I look forward to seeing you on the school committee, unless for some reason there's a write-in campaign or people don't come out and vote, which is always something that folks need to do. So yes. April 11th. Do you have any coffees or anything before we close? Any chances for people to get involved with your committee, or again, how to find tickets to the gala for the CEF?
Well, you can find tickets to the gala for the CEF by going on the website, which is www.cohasseteducation.org.
Okay.
And in terms of, I don't have any coffees or anything like that scheduled at this point, but I'm sure that we'll be doing some email blasts and things like that, mostly just encouraging people to vote. The selectmen's race, there's 5 candidates for 2 spots, and there's a lot of very big issues in town, not just relating to the schools, and so we'll certainly be encouraging that. But I think we'll keep it online.
Excellent. Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for running. Good luck to you. And as Mary said, take a look at the CEF website and come out and support the gala, because the more money they raise, the more money they can spend. All right, I'll be right back with our next candidate, Jeanne Astino. And welcome back. And with us is our second candidate for the Cohasset School Committee, Jeanne Astino. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, Jeanne, you are currently the chairman of the school committee.
I am.
You are seeking re-election for a second term.
I am.
Presently, you're uncontested, and I say presently only because the only thing that could possibly happen would be a write-in
campaign,
which we haven't seen in a while, but anything can happen in Cohasset.
True.
So I just wanted to bring you on to give people a chance to get to know you and hear the work that you've been doing in your first term. But let's just start. Tell us about Jeanne Astino.
Okay. I've been married to my husband for 32 years. We have 2 children, one of whom is a freshman in college at Marist in Poughkeepsie, New York, and the other one is in 8th grade. So still,
Here in the district?
Yes, still in this school system. And that was really the main reason that I decided to run. I figured if my kids were going here, then I wanted to invest. And I invested successfully, I would say.
Yeah, Marist is a fine school.
Yes. Yes, she's enjoying it very much.
So when you ran initially, did you see issues with the school? Did you see things that you wanted to correct, or did you feel things were great? You just wanted to be connected with a system that was, educating your children?
It was a combination. I attended school committee meetings for an entire year before I even decided to run. And I just saw some disrespect on the other side of the table towards the people in the audience. And personally, I love it when the room is full. But people weren't allowed to speak and express their opinions. And I thought that was wrong. The way I initially got invested was when I saw some mistreatment of employees. And I decided that I was going to really sit up and start paying attention.
Mistreatment of employees by fellow staff or school committee members?
It seemed like the budget was being balanced on the backs of the lowest paid people in the district, some of the lowest paid people in the district. People's hours were being cut. ESPs which were formerly called paraprofessionals.
Right.
They're now called education support professionals, ESPs. They had some very last minute changes made to their contract, like on August 31st. So I said, okay, that's it. And then we had the whole Obama thing where people were not being, people wanted their children to understand the history of that presentation to school children, and they were being pushed aside. Their wishes were being pushed aside. So those two items really got me to sit up and pay attention. And I think I only missed one school committee meeting that whole year. I was in the audience in the back, and at one point somebody on the other side of the table leaned over to another member, and this member shared with me that the school committee member said, "Who is that woman in the back?"
She's been here a lot.
Yeah, I had been there a lot.
So you felt like there was just somewhat of a, we're going to do it our way.
And I think there was a disconnect with the community and what the community wanted for their children. So I decided to see if I could make a difference.
Now, since that time, that was 3 years ago, we have changed superintendents, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Barbara Cataldo, she came in when in your first term?
Dr. Walsh was here through my first year.
Okay.
Because when you give a superintendent notice that they're not being renewed, they can stay for another year. So she stayed for the entire first year, and at the end of that time, we started our search for another superintendent. So Barbara came in year 2. So this is her second year in the district.
So did you see a change take place with a change of administration?
I did.
Okay.
I saw a huge change. I saw people feeling hopeful, more invested. It's all good. It really is all good. So, there were other things that concerned me, the legal costs in the district. It's no secret that I'm not a huge fan of block scheduling, the way we do it. I don't have an objection to block scheduling, but I think that there are, and I felt like I had been it had been misrepresented, because we were always, it was explained to us that all the districts above us on that top schools list had block scheduling the way we did. And in the top 60 schools, there are only 4 that do block scheduling the way we do. And we're one of them.
Interesting.
Yes.
So what other things do you feel that you accomplished in your first tenure, or first term?
Well, we've settled 5 contracts this past year, which is amazing. We've done it without busting the budget. In previous administration, the legal budget was as much as $119,000. And this year, with all 5 negotiated contracts, it's only been $45,000.
What made it so easy this time, you think?
People picking up the phone and calling the lawyer for every little nitpicky thing before.
That'll add up.
It does add up. At $200 some an hour, it adds up very quickly.
So I imagine you've been able to take that money and reinvest it into other things that are more important.
Well, you always hope that your legal budget doesn't go crazy. And, prior to, the legal budget was 15 to 25, excuse me. And then it ballooned, as I said, to about 118, and now it's somewhere less than half. So that's all good.
Okay.
That's all good. So, so we've had 3 years of successful budgets. with no overrides. We're very committed to no overrides, although we can't say that there will never be one.
Right.
But we're committed to no overrides for our general operating budget.
And this year you're coming in less than 3%, correct?
Yes, I have the percentage. It's like 2.4 or 2.5% up from last year.
And things are, as I said to Mary, I'm a dinosaur back from, went off the school committee in 2003 or 2004. Since then, you've moved maintenance out, and the town is helping with that. You've got some of the benefits are not in the budget anymore, correct?
Right, but we've been assigned our unemployment costs, and that was another problem. The unemployment costs had ballooned, and we're really holding the line on that also.
Well, that's hard to predict, right?
It's very hard to predict, but what you have to do is hire properly and make sure that the people that you hire are a good fit. Sorry.
You're like me today with the beautiful weather. Out came the pollen, and my throat started to get scratchy too, so I understand. Mary talked a little bit about one of the things that she hears that's coming down the road as far as new initiatives from the state is the different evaluation form for teachers. Will that dovetail into what you're saying about the importance of hiring the right people, reducing cost?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Prior to this, teacher evaluations have been a little bit loose, and it's not just us, it's everywhere. So the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has mandated that we implement a new evaluation tool, and it needs to be in place by September 1st of this year. We've already utilized the superintendent evaluation tool, which actually we had a session with the Mass Association of School Committees a few weeks ago, and they were surprised to hear that we had already used that, because it wasn't mandated until this year for superintendents. So they were surprised that we had already successfully used that tool. That was another problem before, that the superintendent's evaluations were not done in a timely fashion. And people found out about that, and it cost the district a lot of money to find out why.
Yes, yes.
So the superintendent evaluation was done properly for my entire tenure. It's been done the right way. I'm very big on that because my background is in human resources, and I believe that these things are in place for a reason, and they help you be better.
Do you feel, you just went through the teacher contract, which you said you went through successfully, and that's in place. Was this part of that discussion, or do you feel like teachers are going to give some pushback on a new evaluation tool?
We now are bargaining that. So we are briskly entering that. We've already had 2 sessions. I don't know exactly where we are because it just happened last week, so I haven't followed up on that yet.
And will it affect, and again, correct me if I'm wrong since I've been out of the seat for so long, but one of the complaints used to be that teachers only had to perform or were evaluated for 2 years, and then they got tenure, and then all bets were off.
That's not going to change because that's something that's firmly ingrained. Unless the state decides to step in and say, okay, this is not going to happen anymore, it's going to be hard to change that.
But you feel like if you do the proper evaluations and you're careful with who you hire, you should reduce bad fit as well as
it
cost.
controls the unemployment costs, and it helps us excel as a district.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about this budget overall. What were the challenges of creating the fiscal 14 school committee budget?
There were a lot of challenges, actually, because we have a couple of bubble years coming from elementary school. Yes. And in the elementary school level, we actually need an additional first grade teacher, so that we don't have 24 or 25 kids in a class. You don't ever want that, particularly at the lower grades, because that's just detrimental to their learning. So that was one issue. Last year, we needed to hire 4 part-time teachers at the middle school, and this year we need to do it again. So we'll have, essentially, we'll have 4 full-time slots.
Okay.
I believe that that's how it's going to be utilized. I'm not 100% sure because that's really not the school committee's job, but I do ask a lot of questions so that I understand these things.
You create the budget and approve the budget, but it's for the staff to implement.
Exactly. The principal is in charge of the day-to-day and making the hiring recommendations and discussions.
Okay, so you've got increased growth, and this is the new first grade teacher is based on, I imagine, data that you've collected up until this point.
Right. Enrollment figures. We know already, how many children are enrolled for kindergarten for next year. Although last year we had a very slow start on the registrations, and we thought it was going to be a very small year. There were only 88 children enrolled almost until June. And then all of a sudden over the summer they were coming out of the woodwork.
Well, that's always the fear. You also, you've got 42 new houses coming in in Toll Brothers.
And Avalon has made an impact already.
And that's not complete yet, right?
Right. We were told that the total impact on us would be approximately 25 students. 1 year in, and it's not full, we already have 34. Now, some of those students may have already been enrolled here. Maybe their parents have sold their houses, or maybe they're buying other homes. We don't really know. We don't get that deep into the data for that. But, it's still something to consider. Right away when I heard what they were building, I said, okay, 75 kids minimum, at least. So people want to be in a good school district, and it makes them
Seems like a smart idea. If
come
you're going
here.
to rent, why not rent in a place that's got a great school system?
Exactly. And somebody told me, and I don't know if this is true, but somebody told me that the next phase has 3-bedroom apartments. Again, I don't know if it's true.
Those are usually for kids.
Exactly.
Oh boy.
Exactly.
So at any given time, you've got additional pressures that could come in with more people in the school.
Right.
And is that, would you say that the overriding issues is really, and the cost of the budget is staffing for the population?
About 75%. It actually, I think it's a little bit higher this year. I think it's about 76% of the budget is salaries. Not just teachers, obviously, but salaries. So there's not a lot we can do about that. We need these people to teach our children, and then we need secretaries in the buildings. We need custodial staff to clean up after them. I mean, we need administrators to take care of the day-to-day planning and curriculum development. So there's nothing we can do about that.
Right. It is what it is.
So where do you cut?
Exactly. Well, so this year, let's go on some of the other additions. So what else is coming in the budget that's new? You've got the new
first grade teacher, 4 part-time teachers at the middle school level. We also are adding a technology component
to help Rob Burnell, correct?
Exactly.
Now,
But
is that
he
in your
will
budget,
also
though?
he'll also teach.
Okay.
Yes, it is in the budget.
Okay, so that's not its own department. You're not sharing it. You share him with the town, but you.
Well, the ultimate goal of that would be to develop a help desk, so that the students who are enrolled in the class can actually be doing field work and helping out in the school.
It's a nice idea.
It is. It's a great idea. A tech team is a fabulous idea. The one thing that is lacking so far, but we're working towards it, is the technology piece. And by 2015, it's mandated, again, unfunded, that every child will take the state assessment tests online, no more paper tests. So that means that every child has to have a readily available device to do this. So that's what we're probably going to focus on for the next year.
So are there I see that you've got capital expenditures that are out as line items that are going under funding from the Capital Stabilization Fund. Does all the equipment go through there, or you still got things like buying of new computers and?
It depends on where the funding comes from, whether or not it goes through there, because we do have to use the state procurement list. So we're already looking at lower prices, going out to bid for things. So that piece, if somebody wanted to do a corporate sponsorship, Barbara has been looking for funds in other more creative ways. It hasn't worked, but
it's a nice idea.
It's a nice idea. But that piece alone would probably be about $200,000 a year. And at one point, somebody on the capital budget said to me, well, why don't you just add it to your bottom line? And this year, if we had been able to add it to our bottom line, it would have been grand to have all this money, but it wasn't going to happen.
Well, 2 things, just since we're on the subject, just so that folks know, again, because part of having you on is to talk about what's going to be at town meeting, because this budget will go before town meeting.
Right.
You hear people talk about it. Folks like me are still trying to catch up with the shifting of the fund, but you have two items it looks like that are going to be coming out of the stabilization fund. One is a new bus.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, the bus was approved last year.
Okay.
And there was, between the time that the bus was approved and the time that we were ready to purchase, the price had gone up because there are new emissions regulations and fuel. So it's about $6,000, a little bit more than $6,000 more than we had budgeted.
Okay.
So we asked for that, and we are going to be looking for a bus in a future year, but not in the 2014.
And then the second big thing, a lot of folks in the circles that I travel with, the basketball crowd, are very anxious to know that the roof is going to fix that leak. Is that
Right.
what this
That's
air
exactly,
handler repair is going to do?
That's exactly what it is. We discovered we're also working on an alternative energy component. We have a subcommittee that works with the Alternative Energy Committee, and we're in the process of potentially installing solar arrays on the roof of the middle high school. And in the process of inspecting the roof, we've discovered that we have some problems with air handlers that were installed improperly. Obviously, we can't go after the installers because they've been up there for too long. So we do need to fix that. So that is what I believe it's $15,000
Yes.
that was appropriated.
Excellent.
And also, we've determined that some of the leaks, because of the nature of a flat roof, there are seams. So some of the other leaks, which happened as a result of the intense weather we've had over the last several months, we believe that because the rest of the roof is in good shape, that it may be a seam issue. So we're looking at possibly, working on fixing those too.
And if you identify those as needing repairs or more problems, again, will that be something that you would go through the capital budget and ask them for funding?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what process we would follow for that. We have to see how much it costs. We're in the process of getting estimates and having inspections done.
Okay. All right, so anything else in the budget that I've missed that you think that people would want to hear you talk about before it gets put on the town meeting floor?
I don't think so. I really don't. It's pretty straightforward. The budget that we voted it was $272,000 less than what we asked for. So we've had to make some cuts, and those cuts will come as supplies, and we've also increased a couple of fees, and kindergarten fee, for example, we were way below most other towns. So we just put it up to the bottom level of the other towns.
Right.
And that will help us because that will take a kindergarten teacher out of our regular operating budget and put it into what we're collecting the fees for, educating kindergartners.
So really more user fees in the sense of you use the school, your children benefit, you pay.
Right, but we're not increasing the other user fees. We're
Like
not
athletics,
increasing.
you've
No.
got still to ride the bus
Right,
as a fee.
that's all. The bus fee, when they first implemented that, I went a little crazy, but then I realized it's cheaper for my child to ride the bus than it is for me to drive her. 50 cents each way is a very reasonable price to pay for a bus.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
So, and that's what it is. It's $180, 180 days, 50
Done.
cents each way.
Yeah, you can't get that in the city, that's for sure.
Exactly. Plus, we don't want to price ourselves out of the bus business. I mean, that would be ridiculous.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are folks that need it. They have no other option.
Absolutely.
So okay, so the budget looks like it looks like you get a lot, but you're saying that there's going to be cuts. But you're saying most of them or all of them will be balanced by user fees or fees.
No.
Are we going to lose some things? I guess is my answer.
I don't think we're not going to lose services.
Okay.
We're really kind of shifting cost centers on many of them. Like I said, one of the kindergarten teachers, an additional kindergarten salary will now be covered by the kindergarten fee increase. Excuse me. We're taking $20,000 each from each of the schools, and that will decrease the budget by about $60,000, $70,000. In our budget book, which actually is posted online for anybody who wants to
I
see,
saw it.
it's all there, and all of this information is there, and it's pretty easy to dig through.
Yes.
And I'm more than happy to take phone calls if people have questions.
Great. So, okay, so talk about too about the committee as a whole. I can't say I watch all your meetings.
You probably don't watch too many of them, but you know what? We've really gotten a handle on them in the last 3
Well,
years.
and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of controversy coming out of them.
No,
you
there
don't
isn't.
hear as much, you should watch the school committee as you hear, say, maybe other meetings in town.
We're very well behaved and civilized.
Do you think that the school committee is made up of like-minded people, or you're just more congenial towards one another?
I think that we're all, individually, we're very different people. I think that I think that we have some of the same ideas, and it makes us work better as a group. Now, there are also people there are a couple of ideas that haven't been as successful. For example, the school calendar for next year. 2 members, Mrs. Snowdale was away, and so there were 4 of us. 2 members voted for 2 weeks vacation over the winter, and 2 members voted against 2 weeks vacation over the winter. So it caused a little bit of, controversy, but genial controversy.
Right.
So what we did was I set it up so that Mrs. Snowdale could Skype in. She didn't snipe. Could Skype in at the next meeting, and we did the vote. I mean, she had the school committee packet at her fingertips. She was able to watch the previous meeting and see the discussions, because that's all public too. Our meetings are posted on our website. So she came to her own decision, and she voted her mind. And we're not having 2 weeks off next year.
No. Was this something new? 2 weeks off in the middle of
It was the way the days fell.
With the Christmas, that whole break?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was just the way the days fell. We were thinking, Mrs. Cataldo put it out to us, and we've actually approved the next 2 years' school calendars at the same time. So the year after next, there will be 2 weeks off at Christmas.
Interesting.
Again, because of the way the days fall, it makes sense for us to have December 23rd and 24th off.
Right.
Because it's a Monday and a Tuesday.
And bring kids
and then
in.
we'll come back on January 2nd.
Right. Okay. So again, I think a lot of us get into the work that we do because we want to make changes or we see issues. Aside from the budget, if you had endless amounts of money or talent and staff to work on it, what are the issues or the challenges in the schools that you would like to see remedied?
That's a really good question. I think that we're very weak in the technology area.
In the teaching of the technology?
It's a combination, because we really didn't have technology at our fingertips. Now, we were able to install 3 new computer labs with monies that should have been appropriated at special town meeting and weren't, due to the little problem with the warrant. But we were able to get monies so that we could at least start the process. We got monies from the town, and there's a whole shift in computers throughout the town, because they had computers that were very old, we had computers that were very old. So a lot of new computers were purchased and distributed throughout Cohasset, through the schools and through the town side. So that's great, because a lot of the computer equipment just didn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't
when kids are using computers day in and day out, it doesn't work so well. There's a lot of maintenance that's involved.
Right.
So
okay, so technology is something that you see that is something that needed to be addressed, and it's moving forward.
Right. It needs to be addressed for a variety of reasons. Okay. Some of them mandated, some of them just because. Let's be fair here. It's 2013, and to walk into a computer lab and to have a teacher walk into a computer lab and have half the computers not work, that's not good.
Not productive.
No,
Okay.
exactly. So that's my biggest issue.
Is the technology?
Is the technology now. I mean, the superintendent was one of them. The legal costs were another. Again, I have some questions about block scheduling, and actually the newly negotiated teacher contract has language in place that will allow us to do a meaningful study on the block scheduling, and it will include people throughout the district, not just teachers, But, you know, parents, community members, up to 10 people, the teachers wanted more people on that committee than we probably would have recommended. But the way I see it, the more the merrier.
Right.
You know, when we did the superintendent search, the search firm recommended that we not exceed 7 people, and I think we had 11.
Interesting. So if you were in a race right now and someone was choosing between you and somebody else, what would you be asking them to elect you to complete or to take on next year or next term?
No, I just have to keep coming back to technology. I think it's very important. I think that also we need to do a different job with maybe experiential learning and having students don't know how to, just from the very basics at the younger grades, they don't know how to look up a phone number in the phone book. And it's great to be able to use a computer, but as we learned in February, the computers don't always work.
That's true.
So if you have an emergency, you need to know what to do. And that sounds silly, but students don't know how to balance a checkbook. There's not enough time in the day to teach them how to do bookkeeping tasks so that they can balance their budgets. You know, all of those things are very, very important.
Sounds almost like life skills or...
Life skills, that's exactly right.
And is that something that the state feels is an important curriculum addition, or is it just something that's kind of getting left behind as we get more?
I think that more and more districts are seeing that that's important, and they're trying to implement it the best they can. I would like to see fewer TAs and more life skills.
A TA is a...
Teaching assistant.
Teaching
So
assistant.
quite often with the block scheduling, the way we do it, there's a quarter class it's just an empty slot, 90 minutes a day for students. So instead of having your students sit in the back of someone's classroom, just basically it's a parking place for them, let's just say, so that they're not wandering the building. And some teachers utilize their TAs phenomenally. Other teachers don't really want TAs in their classroom, so then you really have to dig to find a place for yourself during that 90-minute block. So I think it would be great if we could put some classes in, and I think that this technology position may be one of them.
Excellent. Great. Well, you've done great work. Looks like you're going to have 3 more years ahead of you to continue pushing and working on the things that you think are important.
You keep saying that. Do you know something I don't know?
No, I just coassed it. You never know what's going on, but I have heard nothing. But along those lines, are you having any campaign opportunities for people to come out and talk to you, coffees or anything?
You know, I haven't really considered that yet. I still have signs from last time, so I'm sure I'll be at the polls on election day. If anybody would like to meet me, I would again, you know, urge them to contact me. We could certainly put together some information sessions and some coffees for anyone who doesn't know me and wants to know more about what I'm about. I'm pretty out there.
Well, you've done great work, and I want to thank you for coming on, and I wish you the best of luck in your re-election and your next term.
Thanks, and thanks for having me.
You're welcome. All right, folks, so keep tuned in for the upcoming shows where we'll be bringing forward the additional selectmen candidates for their individual interviews in a race that is seeking, 5 people are seeking to fill 2 slots, and our selectmen debate, which will be filmed towards the end of the month. But for now, I'm Pat Martin without Mark DiGiacomo. See you soon. Good night.